Hey everybody, Dave here. I hope you're having an awesome day. So I have got some just recycled junk and I want to show you how I made this out of that recycled junk. So come on, let's do it. Alright, so these are not junk. These are Lego Bionicle legs that I got at the thrift store. So these are going to work really nice and give me some nice mobility. I do need to trim this foot off because I think a little bit shorter piece looks nice, but I do need a base for it to sit on. I'm going to trim that off, and I think that'll glue right onto the body. That's going to look nice. Now my neighbor across the street, they actually saved this can topper for me, and I think it looks awesome. So they've been watching my channel and they said, yeah, we thought you might want these, and they look great. They look just like ATST or ATAT feet, so I'm going to use these guys. Funny thing is, right there it says, please recycle. So yes, doing my part. I was going to try and save these little pegs because it looked like the feet coming off of the main base, but it ended up they were all different sizes. So I made this little pattern. It is not the vintage Pizza Hut logo, but it works out really nice. Just to give some toes on that foot. And I'm just taking little strips of polystyrene and adding that. I think it gives a nice mechanical look. So these turn out really nice. So thanks again to my neighbor for saving their cool recycled parts for me. Now pretty much all I gotta do is glue these on, get them all prepped up, and we'll get a couple legs going. Here's really just how I did it. I kind of snipped the two edges, scored the top, scored underneath, and then it just kind of snapped right off. So that's gonna work. I'm just gluing this down now, and you can see I have 3 legs here. Originally I was going to do a 3-legged walker on a tube body, but I just didn't like it. Like, it was strange. It wasn't quite aesthetically right, so here I am trying to clean this off, but in the end I decided, you know what, I need to find something else. So I dug around in my scrap bin and I found this little container. I thought, this is a really nice shape. It's a little thin for what I want. I have these sample dental floss containers that I have in my parts bin, and I really like the feel of them. They fit the silhouette of that kind of tapered shape. They look like gun turrets or engines, so I think I'm going to use that. I'm cleaning these off, trimming them down, getting all the little ridges taken care of, sand that nice and smooth so it'll lay flat on the package. Then I took some polystyrene, cut it to shape, glued that down. I do have a couple little gaps in here, so I'm just going to take some baking soda and super glue, and it's almost like a Bondo. And you sand that down, and you got a really nice, clean piece here. Here's my high-tech measuring system. I just take my poker, line them up, pop it in, and it just kind of gave me a mark of where I needed to Dremel it out. That worked out just fine for me. There might be a better way to do it, but not sure how to do it. So here I am just dribbling out, and those drop in and they look great. I think they're gonna give a really nice exhaust look or little thrusters or something like that. I really am liking the look of this. So here I'm adding some Final Faction parts. Now if you don't know about Final Faction, I have some other videos on this, but they are Dollar Tree toys and they have some accessory kits, and this is probably like a little backpack or something, but it works really nice to help, again, bulk out and kind of mechanicalize the dental floss container. So I think that's going to work out great. I sanded it down just so it would fit a little bit flush, super glued it, and yeah, that's going to work nice. Now I was playing with the lid here. This is from the dental floss, and I was cutting out some polystyrene and messing around with it, but I wasn't loving that, so you have to kind of experiment and think through it. So I moved on. Now this is the front of it, and there's some marks here. I didn't really feel like sanding it out, so instead of sanding it, I just took some polystyrene, cut it to size, sanded the corners so they're rounded out a little bit. Again, when you're gluing plastics and polystyrene, they glue really fast. So what I'm doing here is I held it in place exactly where I wanted it, took the tool, pried it back, glued the top half, let that dry, and then I was able to glue the bottom part without it shifting around on me, so that worked out. Yeah, so this is looking good. I'm going to drill a couple holes. I've got some pieces. I'm going to put an LED light in here, and I think this part is going to work out pretty good. Okay, so I've really been struggling with what the final look of this is going to be. I've got this thing here, it looks pretty great. I was playing around with different things here, but I'm just not loving any of the shapes. And so when you're kind of stuck, just kind of stop and go look at some resources. So I've been looking at some stuff online, and then I was looking at Star Wars models, and I got this ATST here, and I was looking at things like this, where there's actually some dimension here, and it's like lifted off the panel with the dimension there, the simplicity of it, but I think it looks pretty cool. So I think what I'm going to do is build some polystyrene pieces that are actually raised up and give a little bit of dimension to the side of this, right in this area. And I don't know if, yeah, you can see there, I've kind of been sketching a little bit of some of the ideas that I wanted to do. I think I'm going to put that into the computer and actually just cut it on my vinyl cutter, so I can have the little polystyrene pieces exactly how I want them to be. So yeah, let's try that. Alright, here they are all drawn out of the computer. I threw them in the vinyl cutter. It gouges the polystyrene just enough that I can score it and break it, so that works out really nice. And you can see here I'm actually stacking 3 layers of polystyrene. These two have a little opening, and then when I put the third one on top, it actually makes like a cool little vent that goes inside. So I've got some dimension. I think that's going to work pretty nice. I've also cut some little pieces just to build out the panel, just so it looks a little bit more interesting. Sand this thing down really good, otherwise the paint won't stick and the glue won't stick. Then I also am making a little bottom portion that the gun turrets will go on. I'm marking where I want this to glue because, again, once you set this down, if it's been sanded, it pretty much just sticks instantly. So I drew some little lines so I knew where things would line up. Here I'm just taking some polystyrene tubing, and I am just doing some piping detail. Nothing fancy here, and really no rhyme or reason. I'm kind of just looking at it and thinking, oh, this is kind of cool aesthetically, and it works. And you can see I've added a little bit of more polystyrene, some little pieces just to give little panels and just break it up a little bit. So pretty cool. The turrets move. I do need to get rid of this icebreaker and pop open text, so I am going to go ahead and just take the X-Acto knife, sand that off, or cut it off first, and then I'll get some sandpaper and clean it up. A little bit of elbow grease, but in the end, looks great. Okay, time to glue this down. You can see I've also made a mark of where that's going to drop down, so I can just line that up super easy. Couple little gun turrets. I got this off of a helicopter model kit that I found at a yard sale. And here it is looking pretty great. Check out that sweet antenna. I got that from Bosko's Toy Box. He sent me a whole package of really great stuff, so I'll leave a link to his channel in the description. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Alright, so I'm going to take some Magic Sculpt, and I have to do the torso. Now, in order to do the torso, I think I'm going to use magnets, and I'm going to fill that little hole with some Magic Sculpt. It's a 2-part epoxy. It'll harden, so I'm just pressing that in there. I'll let that dry. I'll super glue it in so it's nice and sturdy, and I think this is going to allow my torso to swivel back and forth left and right. Now, to put the legs on, I am going to use some little pegs just to make this more sturdy. Now, in the very beginning of the video, the legs only had 2 components to them, 2 little pieces from the Bionicles. I ended up using 3, and it gave me a little bit more of a walker leg. So I primed it here, and what I'm doing is just kind of scuffing it up and marking it before I do my final painting. I did use an automotive gray primer, and it actually is really gritty, and I'm not a huge fan of it, so I did sand it all down just so it was smooth. I didn't sand it all off, but I did sand it down pretty well, and then used some paint and just repainted it so it was a little bit cleaner. And then I'm doing the same for all the little shin guards and all that kind of stuff. And really I'm just taking this pick and scratching it and kind of making whatever feels right to me. It's looking pretty cool. So I'll just pick at this a little bit more, and once I get it to where I want it, I went ahead and did a wash over the whole thing. I'm just using Citadel Nuln oil and putting it down, picking some of it up. It really just gives it a great machine look. And then I took some of this Citadel Silver metallic and just hitting some little nicks here and there. And again, with a gray kind of Star Wars Walker look, these little silver metallic accents give it a nice metal, worn, a little bit more realistic look. So I'm liking how this works out. And then I took a little rust there, Vallejo, and again, this kind of just weathers it up. I don't want to grunge it out too much. Like, it's kind of this fine line of you could overdo it. So I think just a nice little touch there. All right, the torso is dry, so I drilled out a little hole there, slide that in. It's a nice little fiction fit, say that 10 times fast. And then I'll glue that, so that'll hold really well. I actually opened up the inside and glued it from the inside as well, put a little baking soda on there. Now, the legs, this was my original torso. I built this thing, and then after I did it, I realized I don't have a ton of movement here because of the sides of those pegs. And that's kind of the thing. When you're building your own toy, if it doesn't work, hack it up and redo it. So it's a little bit extra work, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut that off. And I'm going to take that other black peg that I just showed you and I'm going to glue that on. So that's kind of what I'm doing here. Again, it's a little bit extra work, but in the end, I'm going to have way more mobility. I can actually now move the legs up, down, left, right, all over the place. So I'm way happier with that. I got the LED glued in, soldered on. I did some longer lead wires to just this tea light. You can get 2 for $1 at the Dollar Tree. So got those soldered up, and boom, that is awesome. I did switch out the LED to a red LED. I bought some on Amazon. And it's cool because the doors open in the back, so I just put the tea light in. I can open the doors, turn it on and off, and I don't have to do any kind of switch. Now, I am not a diorama guy at all. I mean, I love dioramas. I just haven't done a ton of them, so I'm giving this a shot. And I have to give a huge shout out to Boylei Hobby Time. If you don't know his videos, he does amazing dioramas with Star Wars stuff. And essentially, I'm kind of just following how he does it. He just takes a knife and cuts some of this insulation foam and glues it down, and it worked out pretty great. This is one of his kind of mixtures of Mod Podge and some tile grout and a little bit of paint. I'm just laying that down, getting everything all covered up. And then I had this little Star Wars character. I actually have a couple of these. I found a whole bag of them. I think they might be game pieces, but I think this is going to work out really nice for my diorama. Here I'm just taking some Citadel brown wash, and I'm just laying a wash over the rocks. I did spray paint the whole diorama with a kind of a tan sand color. And now I'm just putting some glue down. I actually found this moss at a garage sale. Some guy had like a train building set that he just gave up on, so got that for a steal. And I'm kind of just laying it down where I think there'd be a little bit of growth. Then I laid down a whole bunch of glue, and I'm literally just taking tile grout and sprinkling it on. Take some alcohol, spray it, and I think this thing is about ready to wrap up, so let's do it. All right, that was a super fun build. Let's take some turnaround shots of this thing and just look at how it turned out. It wasn't exactly how I thought it was going to be. I thought I was going to do some sort of 3-legged or 4-legged walker, but that's for another day. So don't forget to hit that like, subscribe, notification bell, and as always, it is a great day to be a toy nerd. Have a good one.